All right, we're live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is 7 o'clock, Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, and I now call to order the 2122nd regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Sherry, will you please take roll call?
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman, present. Councilmember Moore, present. And Councilmember Williams is present. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
Republic,
Which stands.
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you. It's now time for public comment. Did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive comments.
Great, great. Is there anyone in virtual attendance who would like to speak?
We have one attendee.
Okay, attendee, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Now, *9 would raise your hand if you're connected by phone. All right, and there's no public comment. Let's move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda for tonight, August 22nd, 2023. Council meeting minutes from way back in July 25th, 2023. And excusing the absence of Councilmember Williams. Is there any item any council member would like to remove from the consent agenda at this time?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great. The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Remember the way to be. All right, there's no presentations on today's agenda and there's no public hearings. So let's move on to our action items. There are 5 action items on the agenda tonight. The first action item is the design for College Avenue mid-block. Mid-block? Crosswalk?
Block.
Mid-block. I just read what I'm just doing what I'm told at the post office.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. You are aware there's a existing mid-block crossing on College Avenue right in front of the post office. There are some visibility constraints due to parking and just kind of the setup of that crosswalk. Gets a lot of use because of the post office and its proximity to the university as well. And the city has had several requests to improve safety there. So we have gotten funding from this Washington State Department of Transportation through their pedestrian and bicycle safety program to design and construct crosswalk safety improvements. So we've engaged with JEB engineers and they've come up with a estimate of $38,630 to design crosswalk improvements that would include they'd be doing surveying and design, permitting plans, bidding services, construction, management services, and the improvements would include curb extensions, so kind of a bulb out that would let pedestrians get out further into the road to be able to see traffic coming. A raised crosswalk, which would enhance the safety. New crosswalk markings, stop bars, rectangular rapid flashing beacons like we have other places in town. Lane width reduction just to kind of slow traffic down. And new ADA curb ramps as well as audible pedestrian signals. So that's kind of when they're making the noise, letting people know when it's safe to cross. So this is for JEB to do design services for that with the intent of bidding it later this year and constructing early next year. 2 questions.
Let's go to council members. Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Just thank for obviously finding money for it, but also that's, I mean, it seems like it's gonna help for the bookstore, the art gallery, the whole thing, so that's great. The race is the crosswalk, is that just like a speed hump kind of thing?
A common misconception, a lot of people will call them speed bumps. The raised crosswalk is different in the fact it's generally significantly more gradual transition. It's enhanced safety because people still generally need to slow down, but just because we have a raised crosswalk doesn't mean we're starting to put speed bumps in.
Right.
So,
No, that's good.
but yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No question.
Councilmember Espinosa.
The question that I have, an underlying question, I understand the USPS leases the building, correct? So they don't own the building. So my question is, are they going to continue to lease it for the next 10 years where it's to make that improvement, or might they move to a different location where if that improvement is made, it might not make an impact 5-10 years down the line?
That is a really good question. I don't know their lease terms. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
They didn't give me specifics, but the university said they're there for the foreseeable future. So that is what was the impetus to go after the grants, because we keep getting complaints about
I will say with mid-block crossings, and this is already an established mid-block crossing. Even, so let's say the post office was to leave and we hadn't done anything, we said we don't want this mid-block crossing anymore. It becomes really difficult to safely remove a mid-block crossing. There's case studies where there's been, unfortunately, people hit in areas where there used to be a crosswalk. Where suits have gone through and been awarded because they have said that there was an established crossing at that location already. And so it's highly recommended not to get rid of them once they're there to begin with. And so I think these improvements would be good regardless. And I'd like to think if the post office did go away, there would eventually be more development or something else that would go in there that it would benefit to have a crosswalk regardless. So there is that risk that the post office relocates and then doesn't get as much use as it used to, but I think it's still important safety improvements.
Councilmember Peterson.
I would just, it's nice to see that this is such a comprehensive approach to this. I think at the beginning, we all thought, blinking lights and something like that we'd put up, but thank you. As you went down the list, it's nice to see that we're, the abutments out and the whole process, an overall view. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Sherman.
No, this sounds cheaper than my idea of doing like a raised.
An overpass.
Or like a zip line.
Why not a monorail, Heather? There you go.
Yeah, let's do that.
I like these ideas. So we should have been earlier in the process.
Yeah.
We have these ideas now and started late.
Councilmember Coyle.
Two questions. Well, one's a question, one's a comment. First, please don't narrow that road anymore. It's like a tight fit when there's a big truck on the road. But the question that I have, if we do the raised crossing, does that create problems with as far as like snow plows and vehicles and things like that, keeping things clear? I don't know how those things work, so maybe it doesn't.
It does. Raised crosswalks are inherently a maintenance, complicated for maintenance for a lot of reasons. I've had conversations with JUV about this and they've committed to trying to make it as gradual as possible and as maintenance friendly as possible. I also asked the question, if through the design process, we decided the raised crosswalk wasn't warranted, if it could be removed from the design. And the answer that came back after consulting with WashDOT was no, because it was part of the terms of the funding. And so we would lose some funding at the very least if we did not put the raised crosswalk in. From a maintenance standpoint, it's not ideal.
And from a safety standpoint, the raised crosswalks, I think are great when I come across them, because you do, is driving, you immediately slow down quite a bit. I think it would help, but yeah, I think maintenance wise it would be super fun for you. And from your
Yes.
question,
How does it work for, I mean, I know that there are raised crosswalks in a lot of places, so I imagine it's not an issue. But I'm thinking of some of the longer buses, like those can get over just fine and don't have an issue when it's just like a,
Yeah, because it'll be
Wide
wider,
enough?
yeah, and we'll do gradual approaches. And it's hard to say right now because we're not really even into design, just conceptually, but I suspect we can still do a raised crosswalk and maybe not even have it be the full height of the curbs.
yeah,
And so
thank you.
maybe it's only 3 inches tall instead of 6 inches or something like that, so.
I would just add a lot of what you see in there, because when we wrote the grant, it was a deal with the crosswalk, but then before they issued the grant documents, the conversation with WASDOT is very much, you will do X, Y, and Z. And once they get past that document, they actually write it in the bill that authorizes the money. So you really, that is the one problem with WASDOT grant money. They very much direct you that you will do X, Y, and Z, so.
They're very picky about
Yeah.
their project descriptions, and if a feature's not included or
Yeah.
is included, then it has to be part of the project.
Any other questions or comments? I think you've heard enough from me on this topic, so I'll continue. But thank you,
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate it. All right, do we have a motion for Public Works?
Motion to authorize Public Works Director to sign agreement for professional services with JV Engineers to design pedestrian improvements across College Ave adjacent to the post office.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Perfect, thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. All right, Mr. McAndrews is also going to present on contract amendment to complete the design of Reservoir 4 and the transmission main.
Thank you, Mayor. So you may recall, we talked about a Reservoir 4 project. And I apologize, I probably should have put a diagram or a map together showing where it is, but it is at the end of Owens Road, up above where the police gun range is, up on the hill. Yeah, north of the gun range towards Martin Airfield and Homestead. So JEB Engineers is currently working on design of above ground water tank reservoir. Which will provide storage and fire flow for future development as well as, current needs, water needs. So the city has State Public Works Board funding to get us up to the 30% design. We're able to carry that a little bit beyond 30%. But we were just given additional funding to complete design totally and carry us through bid and award phase services. So as part of this project, we initially were looking at a 500,000 gallon storage tank. And we have since realized there's the need to raise that to 1 million gallon storage tank. So a little bit of the design needs to be reconfigured to account for a larger tank, some more geotech work, more surveying, designed to handle potentially more overflow and an overflow situation. And then additional design for the transmission main. This includes a transmission main to get it from there out to Majonder Road and to tie into our system and ultimately the well 7 that we've talked about a lot. And so the State Public Works Board said they're gonna give us additional loan money in the amount of $427,130 to carry that design through. And so this is for a contract amendment with JV to complete design of that reservoir project. The idea, we really want to get this aligned if we can, so that this reservoir can be built at the same time as Majania Road and at the same time as our well 7, the well house, because all of those kind of tie in together. Well 7 is down off of Teal Road, and it's going to tie into Majania Road. The transmission main has to go underneath Majania Road, so that definitely has to go in before the road improvements. And then the reservoirs out beyond the end of Majania Road to the west. So again, I apologize for not including a diagram. It's been, I'm not gonna make excuses, I didn't do it, I apologize. It's been a busy couple weeks, but that's not a good excuse.
All right, so let's go to council members for questions or comments, aside from if there's a diagram. Councilmember Jessup.
I didn't see any well maps. No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Cleveland.
I think I'm good, no questions.
Councilmember Espinosa.
What is the timeline of the project to be completed?
For the overall construction of it, a lot of that is contingent upon construction funding. So this is design funding. This gets us to the point where then we can continue to seek out additional funding for construction. The construction estimate is pretty high. I think it's in the $16 million range. So it's going to be an expensive project to build. So there's some funding to find, but so I guess all of that to say, Mike, you might chime in if you have.
But I don't know.
Well, pretty much that is part of it, that definitely is part of it, so. The idea is the next go around to essentially give a federal appropriation for about 5 for that. I talked to John Colton, we think that's doable. Also state appropriation, and then one of the things that'll be working its way forward is we are going for a community economic revitalization board grant for general infrastructure planning around the whole Martin Airfield area. That's gonna become really important because again, I can't get too far into it, but besides the Tarragon Corliss stuff, it's starting to sound like the university is planning things out on some property they own near that in the future, so there needs to be a game plan, and essentially with the curb money, given their planning grant, that would parlay it in the construction money through their program. And then also Economic Development Administration, and we have representatives through that agency. They're gonna be looking at that site and touring it next week. So a lot of work, but I believe it'll come together, so.
So what you're saying, Mike, is this project is in tandem with the other projects from Majania, so they're gonna be
Yeah.
done at the same time, or?
Well,
the other?
at least the pipeline underneath Majania is gonna need to be, since we're building a new road, and that pipeline part, that will be done, the pipe under Majania from College, at least out to Owens, will be done the same time as Majania. Now, that project, we believe the Majania project will be basically construction between 2024 and 2025. That project is pretty close to being funded, and that's combination of tax increment financing, the congressional directed spending, MPO grant money, and then also looks like we'll be getting a transportation improvement board grant. So that thing is definitely going. The part that has a little bit of a bigger timeline though is that reservoir because of the high cost of it. And then also, What's really gonna be driving that too is once we get more information about the development going adjacent to Martin Airfield, because naturally there's exposure, I would say, on the developer, Mr. Corliss of Martin Airfield. Also even some on Lakeside, because water will be flowing there. And then the new school as well. That's gonna be helping with water supplies on all sides of that. It's for all of West College Place. So the pipe under Majanier will definitely be between 2024, 2025. The actual tank, a lot of that's gonna be driven by the speed of development and then us giving appropriations and such. But we need to get the pipe before we rebuild Majanier, otherwise you're ripping up a brand new road.
We are working on, and it's pretty much there, adding that portion of the transmission main that's within the Majanier project limits into the Majanier project. So it would be, because it's designed by a different engineer, it would be supplemental engineering, the plan set that would go with that. But it would be built, it'd be advertised and bid and built by one contractor. If we were to tie, and it still is potentially an option. Well, it's not really. If we were to tie the rest of it in on that same bidding, then all of that transmission main and potentially the reservoir are subject to the same federal requirements. And there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through to do that. And so the project, that portion of that project would ultimately get more expensive to take over. And so, it's unfortunately the reality is that transmission main will likely be constructed in 2 phases and probably by 2 contractors, unless they both are awarded the same. Unless one contractor is awarded both projects.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, two quick questions. Mike, these 2 loans.
Yeah.
In relationship to the total cost we're talking about, relatively, smaller amounts. Will these loans be rolled into a grant in the future, or will these be outstanding for as separate amounts?
Essentially, the Public Works Board ones tend to be outstanding, except in the cases of where you're dealing with water emergencies and other things, which we do have. And usually when you execute them at that point in time, you can get essentially some of it at the conclusion of the engineering reduced. So in a weird way, like when we were having our water issues, that inversely tends to be our benefit because we can get some of this waived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second quick question. Someone asked me the other day, this tank up on the bluff, does that produce enough pressure? Is that high enough, or we will also have electric pumps obviously down the road, or what are the thoughts on that?
Well,
Like a water tank? Go ahead.
as far as pressure to serve the community from that tank,
Yeah, below it.
the overall tank height is, I think, 166 feet. So there's gonna be a lot of head behind that, a lot of pressure. It's all being designed in a manner
Yeah,
that will ensure that that we have pressure everywhere that needs it.
Well, and I would just add part of the reason why we're upsizing it now, and this is just a general pet peeve of mine whenever I drive over there, but like if you go to City of Pasco Road 68, those
Yeah,
2 tanks. That they were put up there because of the exact thing. They ended up designing a tank, and then a developer came in and was like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this giant shopping center, and then there was a collective oops, and then they had to build a second tank. So the idea is to do it right the first time, so we aren't having to do
Right.
look at the things. So
No, I think my curiosity is that, loss of electricity or whatever were to happen, there still would be water pressure coming out of those tanks. Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, and everything that would need ongoing power will have generator backup.
Yep.
Emergency
Yep.
backup power.
Good point, good point. Thank you.
Councilmember, pardon?
I don't have any questions. Just look to see if you remember in my.
I know, you distracted me with your, you're answering, so I'll come to you, Boyle. Councilmember Boyle.
I've been called worse.
No question, thanks.
All right. Any other comments or questions? If none, is there a motion again for Public Works?
I'll make a motion to authorize Public Works Director to sign contract amendment to the agreement for professional services with JUB Engineers for Reservoir 4 and transmission main design.
I'll second. I think that one is scary.
Right, first and a second. Any other comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. All right, moving on, Mr. Rickard, you will present on Hewitt property right-of-way acquisition.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do have an exhibit of.
Really great map.
I did come prepared.
It's within the warranty deed. That's the last page of the warranty deed document that's in there. So, yeah, the proposal is to purchase, 2 pieces of right of way. This is down on, west of Bay on 12th Street. The Hewitt property, it is kind of sandwiched between 2 other pieces of right of way, so 12th Street and 11th Street to the north. So on the north end, when you're looking at the exhibit, there's a little triangular, kind of like a half of a Christmas tree piece that we would get that's roughly 584 square feet. That would allow 11th Street to go through at some point in time into the Deer Meadows subdivision to the west. And then down on 12th Street, that's the bulk of it. There's 1,600 square feet, roughly 10 feet by, I don't know, 160 feet. And what that will do will add to the right of way on 12th Street, and that'll allow the Deer Meadows subdivision to tie in the sidewalks where they end currently, and tie in with their neighborhood. If you recall, Mike's been successful at getting sidewalk grants in this area of town. A couple of years ago, I think we finished up a sidewalk project on 12th from College to Bay. And that also went up north and tied in with the rest of the network up there. So this is important to continue that trend in the neighborhood. So if we can get the right of way, the developer then will build the infrastructure. So we did have an appraisal done. We roughly follow the WashDOT right of way acquisition process, which requires a professional appraisal be done. So the land is roughly $2,200 rounding up, and then the cost of the improvements on that, the landscaping and sprinklers is just over $11,000 worth of improvements that we'd be purchasing. So a total of $33,017 for this acquisition. The Hewitts have agreed to it. You can see that in the real property voucher. They signed it. They're waiting for the city to sign. And so if this is approved tonight, we will move forward with that acquisition process and get this property purchased.
All right. Questions or comments, Councilmember Jessup?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland?
So question.
Councilmember Espinosa? Councilmember Peterson?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman?
No question.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions.
All right. All right, any other discussion?
You guys just looking at the map somewhere?
It was looking for the
Just
Christmas
mute
tree.
it now.
Okay, so if there's no questions or comments, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to proceed with the purchase of right of way from Dale E. Hewitt and Susan E. Hewitt, husband and wife.
Second, Peterson?
Perfect. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. All right, next, Ms. Dowie will present the salary ordinance update for Public Works foreman.
Righty. A couple years ago, with council approval, we bargained with the union to remove the, or to create an operations manager position. And we promoted our public works foreman into that position, and left that, position open at that time. And to satisfy the union, we hired another public works employee. At this time, looking at the needs of the department, we would like to, okay, I skipped ahead. Sometime after that, the public works director, we created a water utility 3 position that had some supervisory duties. And that person has since retired. And at this time, we would like to reactivate the foreman position, the public works foreman position, so that we have somebody working with the guys, with the public works guys, that has some supervisory duties. We will not fill the water utility 3 position. Budget wise, probably in the long run, there would be an effect, but not this year. There's been vacancies that we won't go over budget because of it. So we would like to, and in addition, we did update the salary for the public works foreman, just to make it in line with the public works inspector. So, do I answer any questions if anybody has any?
Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland.
No question.
Councilmember Espinosa.
No questions.
All right, Councilmember Peterson.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No question.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions, thank you.
All right, so if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion?
A motion to approve filling the public works foreman position instead of the water utility 3 position and associated salary ordinance 23-009.
Second.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. All right, next, it's a repeal of chapter 8.20 of the City of College Place City Code regarding noise regulation. Is Ms. Colwell in? Okay, and Ms. Colwell, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. This is a housekeeping request. In 2021, the city revised its nuisance code to include noise nuisances. We had a standalone chapter in Title 8 that regulated noises. And so that needs to be repealed. So we're all on the same page. The public knows what they can and can't do. And our code enforcement officer has no confusion and has one place to go to regulate nuisances. Any questions?
Or Jessup,
No, thank you.
Mr. Cleveland,
No question.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Sherman,
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions.
All right, well, that was quick and easy. So there's no discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-010, which appeals chapter 20 of Title 8 of the College Place City Code.
Second.
Great. We have first and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So we're down to our last item on the action agenda. It's to approval to receive a grant from Wild Horse to purchase a specialized drone for the police department. And Mr. Vizitello.
Thank you. So the police chief, he put in for a grant through the Wild Horse Casino Foundation. That is the agency has been paying for pretty much all of our cameras throughout the community. This next request from them is actually pay for a drone. And that's to help like in low light situations and things of that sort. The Tri-Cities, they all have them in the past. Troy, when filming videos for his city, was like using his own drone, frankly. So we're basically bumming off of his drone and not having a city drone. 4 of the police officers are FAA certified drone operators. They went to the training. And as you can see, Wild Horse Foundation, they approved a substantial amount of money to go acquire one. So that is what you see there, the request accepted and to pursue getting said drone. There typically is some funds out of the criminal justice and money like that that can be applied if it does go over that. But yeah, that's what's in front of you.
Great. All right, Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland,
No question.
Councilmember Espinosa.
I think it'll be a good addition for public safety for the police to monitor and to help them do their job. So I think it's a good thing.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
So do we know the actual cost of a drone?
They're speccing the exact models. We think it could be about roughly a 1,000 or 2 over this. They're solidifying the cost. It will be a little bit over though. That's why I put the caveat.
Councilmember Boyle.
No question, that's really fine.
Sometimes she goes without being called on, and
I know, right? So when she stays quiet and I have to go on. Mike, the grant amount,
Yeah.
it's for a weird dollar amount. Is that exactly what we applied for? Is that what
We
we?
applied for more and that's the amount that they gave us. So, yeah.
$1, 15,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
somebody
Yeah.
got 15,000.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Yep.
All right, well, interesting. All right, if there's no questions or comments, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve police department to receive the 14,999 grant and apply toward a thermal drone to be used for investigations and night operations.
I'll second.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a thermal drone.
Yeah.
That makes it even more interesting. Okay. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. I would like to see that voted. All right, no administrative reports. There's 3 information reports on this agenda for your review if you've not had a chance to do so. We don't have an executive session tonight. It's only 7:38, so is there any other business for good of the order?
Do we have an update on Lions Park? When things are gonna get started then?
We are very close to having, all of our permits underway. We're still waiting for word back from the National Park Service. Which grant was it, Mike?
The Land Water Conservation Funds,
So
RCO.
the plans are essentially done. We've been making little tweaks in here and there just past time. Anderson Perry's been working really hard that, you know, every time we think we're almost done, an agency comes back and wants us to provide some more information or reformat the way we answer the question. So the plan is, to answer, to get more direct, is that, we still plan to go out to bid this fall, award late fall, hopefully, and begin in the spring or late winter. Once we award, we will expect the contractor to like start getting supplies in, so we don't end up with any sort of delays based on, you know, availability of parts and that type of stuff. Because there are a lot of, you know, the playground equipment, it's not just off the shelf. They usually don't build that stuff until you order it, and the splash pad, you know, there's pumps and all that kind of stuff. The stormwater system's a little, it's not your typical stormwater system. So
Well, there's a Blue Zones project, meeting this afternoon. And before you got there, they were talking about doing a groundbreaking and I was like, are they gonna say a date for like this groundbreaking party? And I was just waiting and they did.
No, we told them it's too
Like,
cold.
okay, could be any
Yeah.
time in the future.
But it'll be fun.
It'll be
Yeah.
a real fun day. We should all go.
Yeah,
Thinking of Lions Park, it's been a while since we've met, but, Councilman Peterson, thanks for bringing up and staff for moving back to Lions Park. I know it's a lot of work, but every vendor was like, thank you. Every vendor and everybody was like, it was so much better. And I don't remember getting all the big rigs in the past, but that was phenomenal, wasn't it? I mean, that looked like it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really cool. So thank you for all that work. And I'm sure you heard of it. All the vendors are like, so glad it's back. I'm in the shade.
To add one more thing to the piece of next year pertaining to the farmer's market, we will be bringing a
Yeah.
contract amendment to council for some additional design work at Kiwanis Park to add some power into that park so that next year we will have the farmer's market there. during construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, nice.
It's a great idea.
yeah,
And then we'll get traffic on those streets, which means we can get grants.
there you go. But that's the idea, to improve Kiwanis Park in the down season here, so that way, when Lions Park's under construction, it can be held there. And we won't be in the same situation, because this year we didn't really have the choice, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question, Robert, how's things going on Southwest Sixth?
Southwest Sixth, it's moving along pretty well. Like any of those projects, there's little hiccups and unforeseen things that slow things down. We had a little change order for storm drain manhole that we're working through. And we're waiting on some numbers to include additional paving, which should be able to be paid for out of the contingency for that project. Once we got in there and they started cutting out what needed to be cut out, and realized how bad some of the alligatoring was. And rather than just try to chase it, we're looking at options of additional levels of pavement, including a potential 2-inch overlay from College Avenue to Dade to cover that whole section of the road, which is the worst portion of it. All of that to be said, they have 20, well, last I saw, they had 20 working days left for the project. And they are moving on it as weather permits, so.
No, great.
It's generally on track. Maybe a few days behind, but they have time to catch up. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Okay, good. I just wondering where that was at.
Yep.
All right, any other business? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to conclude the meeting? All right, so then I can ask another question. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, perfect. So there's no objection. The meeting is concluded at 7:44 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.